Hey YouTube, this is going to be my tutorial on how to solve the Pyraminx using the Keyhole method. And there are a couple things you need to know about the Keyhole method that are different from layer by layer. Instead of focusing on the centers and getting the centers in a line and then putting these edges in, this method focuses around getting two edges around one center and leaving the back edge open, or as the keyhole, and I'll explain what that means in a minute. This method's a really good method to learn right after you learn layer by layer or a Bob Burton method, and it can get really fast. I would say that anybody with Keyhole could get, just using Keyhole, could get down to a 5-second average, or maybe even faster. I know that Corey Sikowski only uses Keyhole, and he, I think, has a competition average of 5.6 or somewhere around there, and I'm sure his average at home is much faster. So this is a really quick method if you know how to use it. But I personally do not use it, and I think that after you learn Keyhole, it's good to learn other methods and then solve the Pyraminx intuitively, but that's another topic, and I will explain that in another video. Alright, so we have a scrambled Pyraminx, and what you want to do first, and this is just going to be a quick example of the steps in the method, and then I'll go through them one by one and explain how they work. But the first thing that you want to do is build two edges around one center, and you can see that there's already one here. So what you would want to do next is find one of these two edges to put around the center. And I see this green and yellow one right here that needs to go up here. So we can just quickly place it here. And this builds this block. And that leaves this edge in the back open. And what you want to do is find all of the centers that you can see on these layers that don't belong to this top part. So you can see that we have 3 colors here, and the one color that's not there is blue. So we want to put these 2 blue centers on the bottom. And that's what the keyhole is for. So we can actually line this up above the centers that need to go on the bottom, and use it to move the centers without ruining this block. And we can just do that for both of these. Once you do that, you're going to want to line up the 2 edges that you built with the side that they correspond with. And we got lucky here, because the next step is actually to put this center in, or this edge around the center, and I'll explain how to do that further detail later on. And then you're going to be left with a last layer case, which is always 3 edges on one face. And there are several algorithms for that, and they're all really easy, and I will explain those as well. Okay, so in the first step, you're going to want to find 2 edges that you can put around one center. And it doesn't matter what center or what edges, as long as they correspond with each other. And more often than not, you will find a case like this in a scramble, where you already have one edge in place. So that makes things easier. And what you want to do next is find either the red-yellow or the green-yellow edge. And you just do a quick scan of the cube, and I see the red-yellow edge right here. And you can't just put it up like this, because you'll see that it goes in backwards. So if the colors match the center and the edge, then you know that you can't just put the piece up. So you have to rotate the center, and then you can put the edge in the correct slot. The next step in the method is to get all of the centers facing the correct way. So we know that this center consists of green, red, and yellow. So there are 4 colors on a Pyraminx, and the one color not there is blue. And we can see that we have 2 blue centers on this top face, and we can't have that. And that's why we leave this edge slot open. So when you find the centers that can't be in the top, you put the edge or your keyhole, is what we're going to refer to it as, in or above the center. And you can easily put the center on the bottom. without messing up the two edges around the center. So then you can rotate. So then you can put the keyhole above any other center that you need to put on the bottom, and you can easily do that. Now once you've done all that, you're going to want to line up the two edges that you made around the center with the side that it corresponds with, so in this case red. And now you have this solid face here. And you'll notice that this edge, our keyhole, is still not correct, and we need to make it correct. So the first thing you're going to want to do is find the edge that goes here. And we can do a quick scan, and we find that it's right here. So this is probably one of the more annoying cases where it's actually in between the two edges that are around that center, but it's not too difficult. So what you want to do is, whenever, it doesn't matter where this is, but you're going to want to find the opposite color of where it needs to go. So in this case, this is the green and yellow edge, so you're going to want to bring over the yellow side. And don't worry, none of this will mess up these two edges. So now we have green opposite yellow. And you'll see that the keyhole is on the left or the right side. And what you're going to want to do is, and I guess you can do an algorithm for this, but it's really just intuitive, but I'll put the moves that I do in an algorithm notation. So you're going to want to bring this edge up here so that you can bring your keyhole down, and then you can bring your edge back down and your keyhole back up. And you can see that this didn't mess up either of these two edges, any of the centers, and this edge is now in the correct slot. And then we can just line it up. Now if there's any confusion on how to do any of that, or if I didn't explain it well enough, then you can private message me or comment on this video and I'll try to explain it in better detail. Alright, so after you've done that, you'll see that all three of these edges are correct, all of the centers are correct, but we're left with three edges on the same face that aren't quite lined up. And when you get to this spot, this is called keyhole last layer, and there are several algorithms for this, although anything can be figured out intuitively. But for the sake of completeness of this tutorial, I will actually go through each algorithm. The first algorithm is going to be one that almost represents a 3-cycle or a U-perm on 3x3, and you're not always going to have a solid face here, but in this case we do. And these three edges need to cycle counterclockwise. So the way that I do this is I recognize that this edge needs to go to the left, or counterclockwise, but this is how I recognize it. And this is the algorithm that I use. And you'll see later that the beginning part of that algorithm actually just sets you up for another case. This next case is the exact same case, but in a clockwise pattern. And the algorithm I use for this is this next one I recognize as this color right here that's not matching the blue needs to go on the bottom, and this is the algorithm I use. It's similar to a sledgehammer on 3x3. So it's very simple. And if you haven't caught on yet, all of these cases have mirrors, and this one is the mirror of the last one, where the edge on the left has to go on the bottom, and this is the algorithm. So this algorithm is symmetrical, so it does have a mirror, but there's no point in learning it because it's always going to look like this. It's when this edge is flipped in its correct spot and this edge is flipped in its correct spot, and this is the algorithm. This case I recognize as this color needs to go on the bottom and it matches the blue, and this is the algorithm. Just for the record, this is not how I finger trick it, because if I did it this way, it'd be very slow. If anybody wants a video on how I finger trick these algorithms, then again, leave or private message me or leave a comment. This next one is the inverse of the last one, and I recognize it as these two colors don't match, and this one needs to go on the bottom, and this is how I execute it. These next two cases are the same as the last two, but on the opposite side. So again, I recognize this one as this color needs to go on the bottom, but the color in front matches, and this is how I do it. And I believe this is the last one. I don't think I missed any, but if I did, I will probably put the algorithms in the description if I remember. And the last one goes like, or I recognize it as these two colors don't match, and the one on the left needs to go on the bottom, and this is the algorithm. Okay, so as you can see, these algorithms aren't really hard to execute or remember, and if you learn half of them, then you know the other half, or you should. And with practice, you can get really fast. So that's the end of this tutorial. I hope that everyone who watched it found it very helpful, and if you would like me to do more tutorials in the future, then just let me know and I'll be more than happy to do them. I'm running out of video ideas. Alright, thanks for watching.